So now we've looked at the very basics of dragging fields into our report, we need to know how to make them look appropriate. So we may need to be able to make changes to their names, to the formatting, and so on. Now, initially we have field formatting. We had a very quick look at this, but basically it allows you to adjust everything you see in the field. So you can adjust the display name, the format, the amount of decimal places if it's numeric, and so on. You can also change things like the sorting order, the text size, and other items. From there, we might have a look at how to set up org ref codes. Now, if that's a little bit of a mouthful for you, basically what an org ref code is, or if we don't use shorthand, it's an organizational reference code. It's a way of formatting your field, and org ref codes have several different possible functions, and you may not use all of them. The first function is to allow you to change the way a field looks. So on the left of this screenshot here, we have our country, and the data that's coming out from our database is actually a 2-letter country code. And while that can be great in database terms, when you're trying to put it into a report, it doesn't look wonderful. So what we've done here is we've applied an org reference code on the second version of this field that basically says, okay, when you see the country code AD, show Andorra. When you see AU, show Australia. And what it's done is the second column has actually shown the correct country labels. So the data from the database is actually still that 2-letter country code, but Yellowfin's just flipping it to the country name when it finds each value for us. Once we've learned about org ref code labels, we can also look at sorting. So another function that these ref codes supply is a custom sorting feature. And basically this allows us to reorder the values in a particular field. So normally Yellowfin will sort alphanumerically. So 1 to 10 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, so on, A, B, C for letters. I'm good at the alphabet, but when it comes to some data, it's not going to make sense to just sort it that way. A really good example of that is the month field. So if you have month stored in your database and it's just the text for the name of the month, so it's January or February or whatever, Yellowfin will actually sort that by default alphabetically, which will mean we'll start with April. And that's not going to be very useful to our users. So what we want to do here is tell Yellowfin that actually January should be sorted first, then it should be February, and then it should be March, and so on. So what we've done here is the first column here is sorted by default, but the second one has had the reference code applied. And Yellowfin's seen that, oh look, there's fancy sorting on this field, let's use that. And it's ordered our data correctly. So we'll see how to apply that as well. Now, don't worry too much about org ref codes, because again, it's really something that an administrator or an advanced user will set up for you. And much like enabling drill down and drill anywhere, it's something that you just switch on or off. So it's not actually something you have to worry about too much. The next thing we'll explore is the suppression of duplicates. And again, it's a little bit of a mouthful, but basically what it means is if you have repeating values in your report, and generally speaking, this might be a category field, so it might be something at the top of a hierarchy. So you might have business department, and within that you might have team. So if business department is listed multiple times, so you might have marketing, and then within that you have marketing Australia, marketing Asia, marketing Europe. So that would leave you saying marketing, marketing, marketing 3 times. To get rid of those repeating values, what you would do is use this suppress duplicates feature. And we've actually, in this particular example, used it on the year field. And what you can see is it's created a gap, and it hasn't actually removed any of these rows. It's just sort of merged the label together and made it a little bit cleaner and easier to read. So you'll see how to do that in a moment. Now, when we do that, we also tend to incorporate subtotals. Now, subtotals allow us to see summary based on that field that we suppressed the duplicates for earlier, so based on a category. And then grand totals will appear at the bottom of the table and just give you an overall total. Next, we're going to explore conditional formatting. And there are several different formats for this kind of alert. And basically it's just a way of changing the way the data looks to draw the user's attention. And generally you're trying to draw the user's attention just to outliers or important dates or figures. So you'll see how to apply those. And finally we have grouping. And this is just a way of finding multiple values and grouping them under one label. So it's a little bit different to suppression of duplicates in that it can actually merge those values together depending on how the report is structured. So what we're going to do is just leave this storyboard again. Goodbye storyboard. And we'll have a look at our draft report and see how we can improve that. So I'm just going to get rid of my advanced function. We might just restructure this a little bit. So let's put in a couple of these. Okay, so what you'll see here is I actually have some repeating values. So what we're going to do is suppress those. So to do that, we just go to Format, Edit. Alternatively, we can go to the Format menu, find our region field, and then we go to this Suppress Duplicates option here. So we just enable that and close the menu. And what you'll see here is it's still got the same total number of rows for all of the columns, but it's just cleaned this column up. So the next thing we want to do is format this tax values. So let's format this. We might go through a few of these fields at once. So we'll go to region and just call it region, because in the business we understand what we're talking about when we say region. We might call this sales. We might call this sales including tax. We might remove the decimal places. We might add a $sign as a prefix, and so on. Okay, so that's cleaned the report up a little bit. So you can see that the names are more concise, and we now have a nicely formatted calculated field. From here, what we want to do is add a subtotal. So we're going to do that. And to start out with, we're going to add a grand total on this sales including tax. So we just go to totals and sum. And if I go to the bottom of my table, you'll see my grand total there. So the next thing I want to do is add that subtotal. So I just go back to my formatting menu. I go to region. I go to summary. And then I subtotal. So what that does is it says, okay, I want to create a subtotal for each one of my region values. And the way I want to do that is I want to find any other column that has a total applied to it. And I'm going to pull that into my extra rows now. So you can see we applied our total to this sales including tax column. You can see it's at the bottom there still. And it's actually used that in the subtotals. Now this column, this sales column, didn't have a total on it, so it's got empty cells here. What we could do is apply the total now, and it will populate that for us. So it fills that in. Okay, so that's how you add totals and subtotals and use suppressed duplicates.